I'm joined right now by Chris Stirewalt, host of The Hill Sunday. Hi, Chris. Obviously, this is rocking both political parties, maybe Democrats a little bit more than Republicans.
Well, I don't think anybody in Washington is surprised at the ruling. Chief Justice Roberts, in his opinion, picked a middle way through this, right? He neither said that, as Donald Trump said, he had absolute immunity, but he did, and the majority did make sure that they left the space that said that people can't go back and prosecute presidents for it's sort of a Good Samaritan premise, which is we don't want people to go back and prosecute presidents for doing their jobs, even if we disagree with them, right? Mm-hmm. That's what impeachment is for. There are other remedies for that in the system. The court is saying you can't go back and prosecute a president for something that he did executing his duties, even if you disagree with it. Now, whether or not this slows down the prosecution of Donald Trump is a little bit of an open question, because the prosecutor, Jack Smith, got what I'm sure he expected that he would get. And since this was not a surprise, Smith and his team, I'm sure, have been working for weeks on how do they recraft, what's the slimmed-down version of this prosecution look like that they can make sure they don't run afoul of it again. Now, then that depends on whether the presiding judge says that, yes, this is okay. And, of course, there will be challenges from the defense, from the former president. But I will be very interested to see how quickly Jack Smith comes back with a slimmed-down version of this prosecution.
Yeah, Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, and I think there was one other, because there were three dissenting opinions, say that this decision actually reshapes the institution of the presidency. Obviously, that is not how 6 of the justices saw this case. So for the American people, obviously, the inner workings of the court are not just, always so cut and dry. There's a lot of history. Obviously, people brought up the Nixon case back from, I believe, 1982, which set precedent for immunity for a civil case. But in terms of the win here, what is it that they found? What is it the justices found about these charges that caused them to be such good Samaritans, as you called it?
Well, look, hard cases make bad law, it is said, and Donald Trump poses a series of problems for our system because, of course, one of the not to say that no former president has ever committed any crimes or that no former president committed any crimes while in office. It's just Donald Trump is real enthusiastic about doing so, whether it's the documents case or what he did around January 6th and trying to steal a second term. This makes it very challenging. And if you think about it this way, prior to Donald Trump, we didn't have to deal with a lot of these questions because presidents basically behaved themselves, or at least they tried to appear like they were behaving themselves. And the social contract and the way that society worked prevented this from happening. When we think about former presidents, we think they ride off into the sunset, they go away. Donald Trump does not go away. So they're trying to figure out a way to balance two legitimate concerns. What do you do about a person who uses the office of the presidency to commit crimes? But what do you do to make sure that somebody's political rivals, that the other party, people in the other party, after a presidency, don't come back and prosecute somebody for things that they did? When somebody's elected president, they have basically the powers of a king, but they're limited in term. They only get 4 years to do it. And we don't want to live in a society in which every president, every governor, every executive undertakes their work knowing that if they lose the next election or their party loses the next election, that they're going to get prosecuted for doing things that they thought were right. So those are the two things that they're trying to balance in between. So they picked a middle path.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.